All right, let's get right into it. Today, we're taking a deep dive into the world of disciplined spiritual practice. We're going to explore how sacred sounds are understood and used, from the simplest songs of devotion all the way to some seriously potent vibrational formulas. Now, the insights we're exploring today come straight from a detailed discourse by Sachin J. Karnik, who's the founder of Energy and Personal Excellence, LLC. He actually runs a daily online satsang, and, all are welcome to join. To really set the right tone for this topic, let's start with the opening invocation from the source material itself. It's a really powerful way to ground ourselves, honoring the ancient wisdom and the supreme reality that connects every single one of us. Okay, so here's the roadmap for our journey today. First, we'll look at the whole spectrum of sacred sound. Then, we'll see how a simple verse can transform into a living vibration. After that, we'll explore the final stage of integration, this idea of weaving the truth. Then we'll get into the really powerful seed sounds and the cautions that come with them. And we'll wrap it all up with what's called the ultimate safeguard for any spiritual practice. So let's kick things off with our first section, the spectrum of sacred sound. A lot of people use different terms for these vocal practices, kind of interchangeably, but the source material draws some really important lines in the sand. Understanding these distinctions is absolutely key to getting the depth of this path. And this is where it gets really interesting, because it maps out a clear progression. At the entry level, you've got bhajan and kirtan. These are basically devotional songs you can sing whenever, wherever, to just feel that connection. Then you take a step up to the stotra. These are more formal, structured hymns of praise. But at the very top, you have the mantra. And this is a whole different ballgame. It's not just a song. It's a powerful vibrational formula that is designed to be systematically installed inside your own consciousness. Okay, so let's see how this actually works. In this next section, from verse to vibration, we're going to explore the exact methodology for how a piece of external scripture can go from being just words on a page to a living, breathing power inside of you. So the whole process starts with something called a shloka. A shloka is really just a Sanskrit verse, like the kind you'd find in the Bhagavad Gita. It's considered shastra, or revealed teaching, but at this point, it's external. It's profound wisdom that exists outside of us. And this slide just brilliantly lays out the disciplined process for making that verse your own. This is not casual reading, it's a very structured practice. It starts with finding a verse that just hits you, one that really resonates. Then you learn the exact Sanskrit pronunciation, because the vibration is everything. Third, and this is a huge step, you study its meaning to really grasp its greatness, its mahima. After that, you set up a sacred space for your practice. Then comes the chanting itself, 108 times using a mala. And finally, the whole thing is wrapped in this prayerful intention of surrender. This meticulous process, this is what turns an external shloka into an internal living mantra. And this leads to such a critical insight. The goal isn't to collect hundreds of verses. The teaching is clear that just one verse, if it's fully realized and absorbed into your very being, is enough for liberation. It's all about depth, not how much you know. Absorption is everything. Okay, so this brings us to our third section, the weaving of truth. Once a verse has been installed as a living mantra inside you, what's next? What's the final stage of this incredible process of integration? So let's just recap the progression real quick. We start with the shloka. That's the external verse, the teaching as it exists in a book. Then, through that disciplined practice we just covered, that shloka becomes a mantra, an internalized vibration that's alive within our consciousness. And the final stage of this integration is called tantra. This is where the truth of that mantra gets so deeply integrated that it's woven into the very fabric of who you are. Now, I know that word can be a little loaded, so let's be super clear about what it means in this context. Yeah, it's absolutely vital we get this right. The word tantra literally means to weave, and in this spiritual context, it has nothing to do with all the sensationalized stuff that's popular today. It refers to the complete embodiment of the mantra's wisdom, where its truth lives in every thought, every feeling, and every single action. It's the seamless integration of that wisdom into your life. All right, let's shift gears now to an even more advanced and potent form of mantra. These are called bija mantras, or seed sounds, and their practice comes with some very, very important warnings and safeguards. So what exactly are these so-called seed sounds? And what makes them so different from the verse mantras that we've been talking about? A bija mantra isn't a word with a meaning you can look up. It's more like a direct transmission of Shakti, or pure raw energy. The seed analogy is perfect. Think about it. A tiny seed contains the entire blueprint and potential for a massive, ancient tree. In that same way, each bija mantra is a concentrated vibrational seed, holding immense, untapped spiritual power. And this is why such a powerful practice demands so much discipline. The source is dead serious about these safeguards. First off, you really should get permission from a qualified guru. This isn't something to just pick up from a book. The practice itself demands purity in every single way: your space, your posture, your intention. But maybe the most critical point of all is this: bija mantras act as an amplifier. They will magnify whatever is already inside you, both the good stuff and the not so good stuff. So given those very real dangers, what's the ultimate protection? What's the one true safeguard that makes sure your spiritual practice leads to freedom and not to a complete psychological mess? Well, that brings us to our final section: purity over power. The source is crystal clear on this. The biggest danger is when you combine a powerful spiritual practice, or sadhana, with an unpurified ego, or ahankara. When you pour the potent energy of a bija mantra into a mind that's already full of anger or greed or anxiety, you don't get rid of those things. You just make them stronger. It's a formula for spiritual and psychological destabilization. So the ultimate safeguard isn't some other technique or an even more powerful mantra. It's not a complicated ritual. The ultimate safeguard is simply purity. The source holds up the life of the great saint Sri Ramakrishna Paramahamsa as the perfect model, a life of total purity and egolessness. In the end, saintliness is the only real shield. So what's the big takeaway for most of us? It's that the most direct, safest, and most effective path is often the simplest one. The practice of nama japa, which is just the constant, heartfelt repetition of a divine name, is presented as being completely sufficient to reach the ultimate goal without all the risks that can come with more advanced practices. And so, this whole deep dive leaves us with one profound question to ask ourselves. In whatever spiritual practice we do, we should stop and ask, is my real intention here to acquire power, or is it to achieve purity of heart? The answer to that question really changes everything. Thank you for joining us for this deep dive into disciplined spiritual practice. If you'd like more information, or if you want to inquire about the daily satsang, you can find the contact email for Sachin J. Karnik right there in the description box below.